Principles of supportive communication, or how to use Makaton in practice. And this is about Makaton, but really, these principles can be used with any language that you are using or any other way of communication. Now, what you say is as important as how you say it. Why am I learning this? Well, you're learning this because no matter how many signs of Makaton you learn, the impact of its use is going to depend on your skill as a communicator with people with communication disabilities. Now, let's start with how to support comprehension, understanding. First, we will look into how to support attention. Attention is really at the core and at the base of language. Then you will need to make it easy on the mind, make it easy to understand, and we'll need to look at it in detail. And finally, treat the student or the adult as a partner in communication, and we will see what that means. Now, let's start with focusing their attention. Something very basic, use their name and the eye contact. Do not communicate before you've got their attention. And I know with autistic children, for example, or autistic adults, it might be difficult to get eye contact, but you may be aware whether you have their attention. Maybe you can have joint attention on an object you are both looking at. If they are already focused on something else, you can use that if that's relevant for the communication. So imagine they are already playing with something or they are very invested in what they are doing. You can start your communication starting from there. Now, if you need to communicate about something else, first get them interested in it first. So you could either point at it, use a face of surprise, bring it to their attention, leave them time to recognize, to be aware of the new object or what you're talking about. In a nutshell, you need to get their attention. Now, make it easy on the mind. When you speak to people with communication disabilities, you should be speaking, or in this case, speaking and using Makaton, matching their level or just above. Not their level of expression, but their level of comprehension. And the more you know them, you will know how much they understand. So if they're understanding only one word, well, you should be speaking with very, very, very short sentences and often just with one or two words. Because if what you say is very unfamiliar, well, you will lose their attention and you will lose that communication. Give them time to process, especially if you are using longer sentences. Give them time to see and to think about what you've said and signed, to remember the meanings of those signs and those words, and then to put that into context. And you will have to use your own professional judgment to see how long does each student or each adult need to process this information. Finally, start speaking about the here and now. Starting with the here and now makes it easy to know what you're talking about because it's here and now and you can point at it, you can show it. Then if you want to talk about what happened, the holidays or what's going to happen, then you need to do some work on sequencing and knowing that they understand what goes first, what goes after, what is today, what is tomorrow, and from that frame, then you can move on to talk about the past, the future, the wishes, anything. Finally, well, you need loads of practice. So both for the words and for the signs, the same way that you wouldn't go to the gym and expect that on one day you're going to have a six-pack, well, you can't expect your students or your clients to be using Makaton or really any language until they have practiced it a lot. And for the signs, it's going to be very, very useful, if not essential, to keep a record of which signs they are using, which signs you've used with them, and amongst those signs that you have used but they're not using yet, well, those are signs that you need to be practicing more. And the more you use the signs in different scenarios, the more they're going to generalize and use them in different scenarios themselves. Finally, use visual supports. Most schools and services are excellent at this, using visual timetables, now and next, so I'm not going to go into detail with this. Treat your student or your client as a partner in communication. What does does this mean? Well, it means that you are communicating, you're not just speaking and showing signs, you're establishing a real communication. You're interested in what they have to communicate to you, and also you're modeling what communication is about. Communication is an exchange. It's not a monologue. So let's see how we do this. Part of this is to give time to respond. It's likely that your client or your student will have communication difficulties, so they will need more time than you to process information. So they will need more time than you to process information and to answer, to respond. Use a normal voice tone. This is very important for many reasons. One, autistic children, for example, will imitate the tone that you are using. And we are teaching language in order to make people functional in society. We don't want them to be speaking in a tone that is not appropriate to certain situations. Also, a normal tone establishes the tone of being in an equal communication. It's not a patronizing tone. It's not the way that you will speak to a little baby. And finally, well, get to their level. And this means physically, with children especially. Get to their level of their eyesight so they can see you, and also get to their level of cognitive abilities, to their level of interests, and also, of course, acknowledge their attempts to communicate. And this is really important for Makaton, because Makaton, sometimes your clients or your students will make a sign that is not exactly what you taught them, because they will have maybe difficulty in processing the gestures, processing the movements. Also for words, you might not understand exactly what they are saying, or then maybe they are looking at something, but they want to say something, they want to communicate. So you need to try to ask them, try to guess, but really important, do not fake that you are understanding if you are not. First of all, because that's not right, and second, this is not useful. You are modeling and you are creating real communication. So, can you remember how to support understanding? Try to look at the pictures and explain how you can use these ideas to support understanding. And if you can't remember what any of them mean, just go back in the video and watch it again.